What was your biggest fear in coming to Texas, or even coming to
It
the
wasn't
United
your
States?
animals.
It wasn't? That's good. Would you say it's the competition that is here? Have you guys looked at the analysis to understand, do we have it? Please go ahead.
My biggest fear is that we wouldn't be taken seriously. When you know a profession or an environment which we reasonably do in Australia, whether it's the military environment, academia, or the veterinary profession, that's one thing. But then, how do you know you're going to be taken seriously when you come over here? Australia is a very small country. Surely, there's other people who are more important with better ideas who deserve more attention. In our case, we're not making submarines, we're not making drones. Are you really going to talk to the guy who wants to develop something that is, it's really handy for military working dogs, but it's not as sexy as a submarine, perhaps? So that was my biggest fear, that I'd come over here and it'd be like, oh, that's cute, but
Get in
not
line,
really for us.
right? Go to the end of the line.
But what I found instead is that people not only see the application to the military, but the dual use potential. And that is where something like VetChip really excels. Because when you look at the military use, great, very handy. If you're a dog handler, a dog user, or somewhere like the Army Institute of Research, Surgical Research, it's handy, but you expand that to other government departments, especially at the scale of what we see in the USA, and then expand that again into the commercial market, and suddenly, hopefully, it begins to make a lot of sense.
James, do you have what you saw potentially as a risk coming out here?
The big risk for us is probably just missed opportunity. I mean, we're a company that's been very mission-driven for a very long time, and expanding out to the US, you want to do it right the very first time. You want to make a very strong first impression. So on that front, I think you mitigated that risk with your welcome, and the local community has just made it easy. Knocking on the first door, I think, is the first step, and so in some scary story, you never know what's behind that door. So I think we're sort of at that phase now. Hopefully no crocodiles, alligators are okay. But yeah, just getting to be taken seriously by the big players in town is certainly part of it.
Yeah, and then potentially the sharks. We don't have sharks. I'm thinking San Diego, they may have a couple of sharks out there, so it may sway your decision. How about you, Frito?
Yeah, I mean, I guess bringing technology into a new place, you always have the fear that you'll rock up here and someone goes, oh yeah, there's a competitor that does exactly what you do. We don't need you. Or we know, we can understand what you do, but we don't really see a need for that. So thankfully, neither of those things have happened. Both across defence opportunities and commercial. So yeah, we're getting some really good feedback and some
that's
good
great.
opportunities.
I would always think of the competitive landscape. What is out here already. One of the patterns that I've seen been very successful for most entrepreneurs that are looking to come to the United States is how do I make that connection? Well, you have to look at the connections that you have already made. Right? We're living in a global society, and you coming from Western Australia, you guys aren't coming with your idea on a napkin. You've already proven that. So are there any customers that you have that you're servicing right now that you've explored conversations and letting them know you're coming to the United States? Have you guys thought or looked into that possibility?
Very interestingly, one of the best ways to get into the Australian Defence Force, and this is something Jimmy said the other day, but we've both said it many times, one of the best ways to get your product into the Australian Defence Force and widely used across the Australian Defence Force is to get the Americans using it first. And it's absolutely true. If you see the right people using it, then it can be quite compelling. So to me, that is a very interesting angle that we can now take, or we'll hopefully soon be able to take back to customers in Australia. It's almost like reversing what's happening in our domestic market. They're open to us, and they're interested in we're using stuff with the Australian Defence Force, but being able to say that the Americans are using it will make them even more excited.
That's great. How about for you?
Yeah, it's a good time for us and good timing. So we're showing off some of our technology on a UK developed vessel with Australian software and American payloads over on the East Coast next month. That's a really nice move for us. We've got an American partner that's got our software packaged up that we'll be showing off at a similar time. We've had great success back in Australia with our largest shipbuilder. They're a very strong advocate of ours, and they're looking to introduce us to their networks over here, so we'll be able to work together with them. But then it becomes about the so what and what are the local opportunities. We want to take a really hyper-local approach to it. So start to work with the the local maritime communities, whether that's the Navy, the Marines, or local fisher people, whatever the case might be, and we want to explore with them what problems they have and what cost, safety, environmental benefits that this software can provide to them, while certainly not displacing any jobs, but instead enhancing the lives of those that they're doing dull, dirty, dangerous work day in, day out.
Have you explored the factor of time in your decision and how fast you want to come into the United States? Are you in a hurry? Are you wanting to take your time? Are you wanting to just, what I found is like three factors of most internationals companies coming in. First, they come on an exploration trip. They come to a South by Southwest. They hope they make a great contact to then do and take part in an excursion, right? A pilot program that then informs we're moving. It's either San Diego or Austin. I'm here to inform that. So I'm curious as to your time factor in your growth here into the United States.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think the first stage is exploration. I think the other thing that we've kind of learned is don't try and reinvent the wheel. So partner with an organisation that's already based here who has common interests. So we have a partner based in Dallas. Don't hold it against them. So I think that's going to work really well for us to leverage, their contacts, their networks, and their way of doing things to understand how we need to expand here with them and other partners.
That's great. How about for you?
Time is really interesting to us, and the reason I say that is because we are creating a new technology with a new capability that has never existed before for a market that doesn't understand that it could have that type of capability even available to it. And the nearest thing that we can compare that to is a world before humans had Fitbits versus the world we live in now. Before we had things like Garmin watches, Fitbits, Apple watches, the idea of monitoring your health through a wearable was pretty foreign. For those of us who are old enough to remember, they used to do things like step challenges, and you could get a little accelerometer that you put on your wrists, and if you did 10,000 steps, that was pretty cool, and workplaces would come together. And I remember thinking at the time that was great, and we've come such a long way since then. But animals have been left behind, and that's mainly because they just hate wearing things, and wearables will never be the right solution for animals. But we can't go too early either, because if people aren't at a point where they want to be able to monitor their pet's health and welfare, then it's not really something at the forefront of their mind. And then you have these things in between, like when do you get something for your kid? My children now have smartwatches, and they've only existed for the last, say, 2-3 years, but I'm very happy to be able to see that they're safe and they're well and they can contact me, and I'll pay a subscription for that. When does that flow through to pets is something that we have to define and figure out at the same time as we develop our product. So for VetChip, it's one of the reasons why we focus on starting in markets like the military and starting in racehorses, because those are markets that have an immediate problem that we can solve with the technology that we have right now. And that technology brings us closer and closer to that future where we have that vision where we can see every animal in the world of every sort using our tech to live a better life. I do hope we really get that timing right, but it is something that we think about continuously, because we do not want to be too early, and we certainly don't want to be too late or too slow, because someone else may look at us and go, look at what those VetChip guys are doing, they're pretty clever, let's try and do that faster.
Yeah, the customers are here. I think that's one of the clearest signs that of the United States is that we have needs, multiple needs that can be serviced, whether it be domestically or internationally. And so it's good to hear that you have partnered, you have looked at and evaluated. I mean, from a pet perspective, show of hands in the audience, who's got a pet? Right?
Yeah.
And now you're seeing more of insurance and all these other additional services because of the care of the, so it's knowing your market and knowing where the market will potentially take you. In that question, have you explored other markets besides Texas, besides the United States, or have attempted that exploration?
Yeah, I mean, a few of us are just at an AUKUS theme before, and for those who don't know what AUKUS is, it's a challenge, I suppose, for three major allies to come together and improve their defensive and offensive capabilities. I suppose it makes sense for a cyber company to be looking at the US and the UK in that context. So that's definitely something that we're looking at, and from that perspective, the AUKUS timing has been really good for us. And I think the other aspect of it is, I guess, coming back to the timing question a little bit as well. Frankly, we're being helped by the cyber attackers or the cyber criminals who are demonstrating why people need our solutions, and we're seeing that in wars that are happening in Europe, for example, where there are bombs flying, but there are also cyber attackers taking down utilities, power grids, local government capabilities as shaping before offensive capabilities come in.
How about for you guys? Have you started to explore other markets?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, one of our strengths is that animals are really universal, and not only are they in every society, every country across the world, but they're the ultimate icebreaker. One of the best ways to get to know someone and build a bit of rapport is to talk about their pets. And it's really easy for us to then say, oh yeah, great, tell me about your pets. Oh, and they'll often tell you about challenges they've had or sicknesses. From a military point of view, it's even better. If you start talking to a military person and saying, tell me about your tactics, techniques, and procedures, how do you do that? It's difficult to do that in a way that either doesn't come across as threatening or challenging or turn into a bit of, I'm better than you, let me tell you about the time I did this. But if you talk about pets and military, if you talk about military dogs, everyone's happy to talk about military dogs. If any foreign nation that I've worked with in a military capacity has been so happy to talk about their dogs. And the other military that we work with quite closely, being the United Kingdom, you guys have horses, which is fantastic. You have a lot of military horses, which is very rare. In the Australian Defence Force, we have one military horse, and he is a unit mascot. And he does not need performance monitoring nor welfare monitoring. He is cared for very, very well. But you guys have many hundreds of military horses, and in fact a gigantic defence animal health centre. So we, as in VetChip, really greatly appreciate the opportunities that are open to us through things like AUKUS and our very close relationship with the UK. And certainly 2026 is hopefully going to be a big year in the UK for VetChip.
That's great. How about for you?
Geographically speaking, yeah, we've started working with partners in the UK, here in the US, so very, very early days. We worked with some European companies early on, and let's say we're focused on the US. But an interesting market, though, has been deep sea exploration. We work with some private explorers. There's quite a famous one up the road in Dallas who they rely on our software. Every time these guys go down to the bottom of the ocean to find new life, and where they started doing exploration, the explorers then became passionate about the environment that they were in, and that turned them over to conservation. And so they work with this mandate of document to protect. And so being able to, whilst proudly growing in the defence sector, also being able to support individuals who are out there pushing boundaries and literally they're doing their best to save this world for us. It's a privilege to work with them. So we'd like to also continue exploring that.